some Jonah Hill directed skateboarding. Mid90s, his debut film as a director. Jonah Hill sitting at 78% Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't check out the box office numbers. I can't imagine it's killing it there though.
No, I think it made like under 3 million.
Yeah.
It would, I think like 1,000 theaters. It's doing well given the type of movie it is. But yeah, this is not gonna win any weekends or anything. It was May 24 movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which actually, I mean, when I see the A24 at the beginning of a movie, I almost feel like I know I'm gonna like it. Like I'm gonna be like, oh, this is quality.
Like arousing.
Yeah. um, starring Sonny Siljic. I hope I said that right. Lucas Hedges, Nikel Smith, and then Olan Prenat, Ryder McLaughlin, Gio Galatia, and Catherine Waterston kind of round out the cast. Obviously, there's a couple we didn't mention there, but I was so impressed with those first three in this movie. Sonny, Lucas, and Nikel. I thought all were fantastic. And it's interesting that Jonah Hill took the approach of, I'm going to find skaters and make them actors rather than the other way around, which I think is what a lot of people are talking about with this. But it was almost at points like watching a documentary because, one, these kids were that good at skateboarding, but they really made it feel like they weren't acting at all, that they were just being themselves at parts, which is, I think Lucas Hedges was actually probably the one that I was like at least believed, only because I've seen him in so many other things, and playing this like, I don't know, tough guy brother who's really like, I don't know, emotionally ruined underneath was kind of different because he always plays like a very nice person. But
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. But overall, I was just blown away with the acting performances. I think that there's a couple of, I think there's a couple of things that could have been better in this film, but overall just was great. What did you think of Mid90s?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. It's interesting because we're in this, just by chance, this great year for skate cinema. Movie Skate Kitchen came
Mm-hmm.
out a few months ago. Same thing, cast real skaters. This movie about female skaters. Jane Smith is in this movie as well. Um, I actually like that one a little bit more. We never got to talk about it, but another movie. It was very similar to Mid90s. I think there's just more narrative in that one. And then also Minding the Gap, which is a skateboarding documentary, which has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And now we have Mid90s, which is an A24 film. So it's like, it's a big year for skate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And skating. And, I think I had heard going in that the movie was indebted to Kids, and Kids was a movie that I had always had on the list and never actually watched. I watched Kids like before I saw Mid90s, like literally the
Mm-hmm.
day before, and having that fresh in my mind, I could definitely see some of the influences, like uh, nothing overly copied or anything, except for the handshake scene where Sunny and the crew was like dapping everyone at the park, or that like back lot they were skating at,
Yeah.
which is very much like that iconic park scene in Kids where they're all doing these extended handshakes. So that was cool to see. And Kids also takes place in the 90s. It was shot, it came out in 95. So seeing something like this, which is so indebted to the 90s design, it was a nice, cool little homage. But I think what Jonah Hill should get a lot of credit for has his directorial debut. And uh, even sidebar on that, Bradley Cooper, Paul Dano, and Jonah Hill all made the directorial debuts this year and all killed
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Good year for actors becoming directors. But Jonah, he was so indebted to the 90s. This is a time where obviously he grew up in, and you could see it. I mean, this obvious stuff, right? With the Street Fighter shirt, the CDs, the fashion,
Yeah.
but just like he didn't make any compromises with the vernacular, the conversations the kids were having, which meant not pulling punches with fucked up language that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really happen anymore. So I thought that it was a smart call for authenticity's sake. But in terms of the acting, Sonny Soljic, I didn't realize it was him until I saw the trailer for like the fifth time. But he was in Killing of Sacred Deer last year, the Yorgos Lanthimos,
Mm-hmm.
and he also did the motion capture for the God of War PS4 game that came out back in April. So he's like 13 years old, but already slowly killing it, right? And then we talk about Lucas Hedges, we know that, but Nakel took me like 7 or 8 times seeing the trailer before I realized Nakel Smith was from fucking Odd Future, and shit blew my mind at first because I was like, I knew Knock was skateboarding and like he was
Mm-hmm.
excited screaming like really big on that. But I was like, oh, he's acting. This is so cool. And he was a revelation in the movie for me. I thought, again, for a role that a movie under 90 minutes long, there's not a lot of meat left on the bone, but he still made a really good impression on me as a performer. So overall, I liked it, but I do think there's some issues with it. But definitely, even for its flaws, I think it's well done throughout. So it's quite an enjoyable movie.
Yeah, Nikel Smith, his performance is so well played, and so he's basically playing like the big brother, like the dad figure for the group, and um, kind of he's also like the character that's like wise beyond his years. So I think,
Get out the hood.
yeah, no matter how he like played it, he had a really good role to be working with. But he did kill those like moments, like when they're just sitting and talking, and he's talking about all the issues everybody in the group has, or at the end, even like the last line when he's like, you take the hardest hits out of anyone I know. You don't have to do that, right? Like, you don't have to do that. Like the way he delivers those lines is, like I said, it's so realistic. Almost at points, I like felt like, is this just actually who this person is in real life? Like to like play it this perfectly seems like he was made to play that role. And Sonny Suljic, man, I mean, he is in what, the House with the Clocks in his walls, and he's in Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, which I mean is like 2 seconds. He's like, when he falls out of the wheelchair at the beginning, and at the end they pick him up. He's like one of those skateboarders who's like,
oh, I didn't know.
Cool. Yeah. So he's had a lot of good things going on. Very talented, and like Lucas Hedges, obviously. The whole thing with the fucking orange juice had me dying throughout. I was just like,
constant dog.
I was unbelievable. And then at the end when he gets the two and he shares one, which was like a really nice like way to like wrap that up, that seemed like realistic, but just like, so I was just laughing about this fucking orange juice. Yeah, so why don't we talk about some of the things you felt like could have been better about it?
Yeah, I think the movie is too short. Let's just be honest. I think there's not enough narrative in the movie. And it's disappointing because you see the outline, you see the framework for everything. And I think that, if anything, this movie, despite its flaws, great sign for Jonah Hill's directorial career moving forward, because this is a script he wrote, this is his first script. And he made these choices to have it be, a tight film. So I think, with some feedback, he has a lot of great people that in his circle. So I'm sure he'll continue to improve on this. But I mean, the whole crew, right? And Nikel plays Ray, and Ray's the closest thing to a real character. But I thought all the skaters, I liked all their performances. I thought all the kids were cool. But I mean, were they really characters, or were they just kind of like archetypes? Like stoner kid, quiet kid, bad home life kid, talented kid who kind of needs to leave his bum friends. It's like, we never got like the backstories were interwoven smartly through dialogue throughout the film. But we never got anything more with that. And like Ray got close, like remember, I think the scene he was talking to the pro skaters, right? And then fuck shit fucks it up by being like a slob around him, right? Remember Nakel, the delivery, he's like, shit, I forgot what I was gonna say, and it was really
I'm tripping right now. Like,
and I thought that scene was another great acting performance, but that was close. We got to really getting more into his character. The other ones, though, I just felt like we never really got beyond the surface. The surface was done well. I think they were fully realized initially, but we never got any further with that. And then even Lucas Hedges. I mean, his brother, what's his name? Ian.
Yeah, Ian.
He comes off at first as just like a bully older brother, right? And then we realize there's more underneath the surface, but we don't really get that. So I just think there were opportunities to have this movie flesh out the story a little bit more. Again, I still like the movie quite a bit, but I feel like if they could have done that a little bit better, it probably would have been a better story overall.
Yeah, I think that was my overall gripe. Was I did feel like they gave like certain lines of dialogue a lot of weight to lift. Like you talk about how none of the like skateboard characters were really fleshed out, and I think they expected the part where Ray is explaining to Stevie about all the issues that they all have in their own lives, and then you're supposed to like piece that back together. But that's a lot of work for that dialogue to be doing. And with movies, it's always better to show and not tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of the same thing with Ian and Stevie when Ian's talking about what the mom was like when he was a kid and how she had guys coming in and out all the time, and he would hear things that really bothered him and made it hard for him. And
Kind of sounds.
yeah.
Fucking sounds.
Which that's the thing is that this movie, for as like it wove in a lot of different themes and like stories it wanted to tell. Like Stevie was dealing with mental health issues. Like he was self-harming throughout the movie. Him and Ian obviously were very affected by their home life. They were both looking for community. One found it, one didn't. And I think it touched on those things tastefully and did them pretty well. But in terms of fleshing out some of these things, it was really like, man, you're given a lot of weightlifting for these small parts when you have a lot of time. You can make this an hour 40 and really, I think, improve this. Any other knocks on it, or do we want to move in? Go ahead.
No, I think just to put a bow on that, the movie's more of like a vibe than a real story. It's more of that 90s vibe, that culture. The culture is captured expertly. The setting's captured really well. But the story, well, not horrible, not bad, just I think it needs a little more oomph. And, not holding it against Jonah Hill at all. I still think the movie's quite enjoyable. But I think if you had these critiques as well, I would recommend seeing Skate Kitchen. I think you would be very happy with that.
I'll check it out for sure. Two other things I just wanted to shout out real quick. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I mean, is there anyone better making scores right now for movies? I mean,
for money, dog.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the fact that, that not only did they have this really successful band that's touring at the moment, but they basically get featured in these awesome movies. And I'm pretty sure they did this for very cheap if they didn't get paid at all for it. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, and shit, I mean, the soundtrack itself was dope.
Yes, that's what I was getting to. Great mix of 90s music.
A lot of good 90s music, a lot of obvious picks. You got Morrissey in there. Also, I thought, I mean, even the first frame, but it's in 4:3 aspect ratio, like the 90s, like a CRT TV. That was really cool to watch. It was shot on a Super 16 camera. It almost had like a grainy look to it, Jonah Hill really put a lot of effort into making all aspects of the film feel like that the time period. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here, even if not everything worked. And I can't wait to see what Nickel does next.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was gonna just try to point home about the soundtrack. I thought the way that they worked in the Nirvana song, Cobain's cover of "Where Did You Sleep Last Night" was like perfect and subtle, but still like stood out. And then also Wave of Mutilation. First of all, bringing in the UK version of the single is a deep cut for sure. But then just the way that they use that to show his attempt to become a skater was, I thought, perfect. So a lot here to like for Jonah Hill. I have no doubt that this is just the start for him as a director. So a lot of really exciting stuff. Go see Mid90s, but sounds like Skate Kitchen might also be worth your time if you enjoy this. So we recommend both of those.